Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September board meeting of the Macomb Park District Board of Commissioners. The first item of business, as always, the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve as published?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as published. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda stands approved. Consideration of and action on the minutes from the August board meeting. Are there any problems with the agendas other than minor clerical or typo? And hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as published?
A motion to approve?
Moved. Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the August board meeting minutes as published. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the minutes stand approved. The bills and transfers, monthly financial statements. Commissioner Ham, please.
August was a very busy month. Good weather, a lot of events happening. So there was a lot of staff being utilized to the different events. One of the things that was covered with Chris and I's meeting was that there was the expenses for the month were a little bit over for the payroll account. Several things factored into that, like I already mentioned, the good weather events. But also, it's a 3 payroll month, so that would add to the budgeting figures there. So that's also keeping staff on working is pretty typical this time of the month. So payroll is something that was brought up, and but that was expected again. Other expenses, most of the funds are either better than expected or below budget for the month, or at least, and also for the year, so we are running according to budget. I did note that we did get a third property tax payment in August on the 22nd, which brings our amount received so far to 59%. The other thing, there was a small safety grant that was brought in from iParks for reimbursement for some playground surfacing. But everything else was pretty much, like I said, in line with the monthly budget other than the payroll. But other than that, everything looks pretty good.
Okay, other questions for Commissioner Ham? Then hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the bills and transfers monthly financial statements as published.
Motion to approve.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the bills and transfers monthly financial statements as published. This is a money matter, so as always, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hemingway,
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew, Commissioner Ham,
Aye.
Commissioner Bortel,
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss.
Aye.
Thank you. I assume that we have no one signed up for public presentation to the board. So we will move to the president's report, and I have some bad news this week. There is one. This past weekend, I spent at an Illinois Association of Park Districts, the IAPD Board of Trustees retreat going over strategic planning for the association, as well as some fairly standard annual business. And I found it interesting that one of the main features that the CEO, Peter Murphy, brought up was to discuss something called a foresight or vision process. And as I sat there, I kind of chuckled and smiled to myself, thinking, once again, here we are in Macomb, maybe a little bit ahead of the curve even. So you have already received the timeline for our own visioning process. And here is a little explanatory. If I thought I could get away with it, I'd call it your homework assignment. But this is some information that you can use as background going forward as we move towards that October meeting deadline for submitting materials. And none of this is intended to constrain. It's intended to facilitate. And we do want I want you to think about a 10 to 20 year timeline. What's going on in this park district at that point? What have we done? In looking at some of the materials in my office today, one of the good definitions of it's talked about envisioning what success would be. So if we were being successful in your mind, what would we look like 10 to 20 years? And in very broad terms, how might we get there? Don't get bogged down in details of strategy. That will come. And then the timeline is pretty much summarizes what we had talked about earlier. And as you can see, we have built in a time for public comment and open houses, and several different periods in which we will be able to revise in response to board input, to public input, before we make a final decision or create a final draft. So does this help explain the process that we were talking about? And I probably will hate myself in the morning for saying this, but be creative. And kind of think things through. But this is not a time to hold back. No guarantee that we'll ever achieve all that we can dream of, because I know that there are some pretty big dreamers sitting up here, and I'm the one to my right, camera left, dreams bigger than most of them. So we'll have to rein her in maybe just a little bit, but
Only if you catch me.
I sign your paycheck.
Shoot. Win.
What does Mel Brooks say? It's good to be king, or something like that. So at any rate, we hope that by January, there will be something substantive that we have been able to pull together from your collective contributions that we can then begin to hash out as a body, go from there. Does that work for explanation? I hope. At the IAPD meeting, there was also distributed the property tax document that you have been given. And this is material that is the result of a study conducted by the IAPD about the reality of property taxes in the state. Ultimately, two things stand out from this. Illinois does have a high property tax rate. It is not the second in the nation, the way it's frequently cited, but we are still the 10th, so we make the top 10. That's, I'm sure, small consolation for all of us here who are also property taxpayers as well as people out in the community. And we have a relatively high tax rate based on percent of personal income. The second point that comes out from this is that the park districts really aren't contributing much to this problem. Now, individual property tax rates are going to vary by district and locality, but for the state overall, it's 3.7% of property tax income goes to park districts. And if you stop and think about all of the services and activities provided by park districts, that really is a relatively small percentage. And one of the reasons I wanted to distribute this to you is so that you are armed with what I think is reasonably reliable and research-based information, and so that we can ourselves fully understand what is going on. The fact of the matter is that it is our school systems and the counties and, well, let me reverse this a little bit so I say it in the proper order. Schools, cities, villages, incorporated towns, the counties, and community colleges. Community colleges are just a percentage point above us in that. So when we look at it, the bigger slices are going not to us. And I think we're giving pretty good value. So this is one of the benefits of the IAPD. They are doing more and more research like this. And if you remember a couple of meetings ago, we distributed the W-2 survey, which shows the amount of salary and wages being paid by park districts, which is not inconsiderable in that. Now, if I can dig myself out here. And Joe, if you would just summarize what those documents meant that you passed around?
Sure. What I passed out was a in the Everly Park Trust, which basically accepts the resignations of the most recently previous trustees. That was Tweed Mummert, Rosemary Ayton, and Marcia Hamilton. And appoints John Hemingway, Valencia Pettigrew, and Russell Ham as the new trustees of the Everly Park Trust. And along with those were letters of office, which are essentially just documents that are official, that say that you're a trustee of the Everly Park Trust. A long time coming, and Attorney Bruce Biagini is the attorney for the trust, and he was very helpful in getting this done. So it's done now. The term of the trusteeship for each of the three of you is until you resign or for other good cause shown to the court. And any replacements for either or any of you would have to be, again, approved by the court.
And I'm glad you added that last, because we've also been working with the foundation, and the foundation is basically a self-governing body, so that the foundation can appoint members by itself, but because this is the shape of the trust on this, it's a court document.
Yeah, the reason it needs court approval is because the trust was created in a will, which was probated in court. And the terms of the will were that any replacements for trustees had to be appointed by a judge. So that's why it's still in court.
It's important also to emphasize that this does not in any way give the Park District an ownership claim in the Everly Park property, but simply designates us as trustees to manage that property in the spirit of the original trust. But I want to thank you, Joe, because I know this was at times kind of frustrating as we chase things down and with inevitable delays. Everly Park's a lovely property. And I'm glad that the Park District will be able to take an even greater role in managing it.
I'd just like to add one more thing, and that is, there is no real legal connection between the Park District and Everly Park, except that the Park District leases the park from the trust.
Right.
The fact that 3 of our board members here are now the trustees of the Everly Trust. Your jobs as trustees are completely distinct and separate from your jobs as commissioners. So the fact that, you as one person are fulfilling both of these roles doesn't mean that somehow the Park District controls the Everly Park Trust, because it doesn't.
Yeah. The task of the trustees is to manage it in the spirit of and for the best interest of. Good. We've been hoping for something like this for a long time, and so it's really nice to see it happen. And with that, I'll pause for questions. Or if anybody wants to throw something at me or whatever it might be.
I would just want to go back to the listing of the park that you had. I think Compton Park, did you want to list that as the visionary?
We do not manage Compton Park anymore.
No, we don't. Okay.
No. That change was made some time ago, and I can't remember the exact circumstances, but it was essentially just a mowing operation for us, and so we traded that off.
So we still mow?
We do not.
We do not.
We don't do anything with Compton Park anymore.
Is that,
We still get calls about it, but we don't.
is that the city then?
Yes, the city handles that. That was just, we managed that in the sense of maintenance for them.
Sure.
We never programmed.
So this is a complete inaccurate list then?
I'm going to trust the director on that, and if it's wrong, I know where I'm going to look.
There was a master plan that popped up last month, so there might be a park that pops up this month, you never know.
Well, there actually is one, now that I think of it, but don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, because that's going to, you're going to hear from our ex-director on that, I'm almost sure, Jerry Park. But don't panic.
Oh,
Washington Street, is that the gym? Don't we?
No,
Dairy Park is like on the road.
I don't even know.
Okay, sorry.
It's,
I must have had a,
No, we used to own Washington Street building, but we leased it out to the school district, so now they have full management of it.
cool.
But we still have,
But you still, but the
Get to
park
use it.
district still, so you're leasing it, but so the park district still
is that what you said?
Which park?
owns, right?
Washington Street Gym? Didn't we gift that to the school district?
I thought you were still talking about Dairy.
Oh, yeah, no, Washington Street Gym.
I don't know.
No. To my understanding, we do not
I
own
don't
it
think we
anymore.
own that.
Okay,
No.
Yeah, we have not since I've been on the board.
okay.
We have access to it when the school district is not using it, sort of as an open gym, but that's not very often at all.
Sure.
So, and we'll deal with the Dairy Park thing, because that is a really strange situation.
I will be adding that to my list right now.
And I'm not altogether sure that we have anybody here that's ever been there.
I do know what
Yeah,
it's
I'm,
at.
Without trespassing.
Yeah, without trespassing. That's how weird the situation is. So don't panic about that one. We'll go with this.
Okay.
Director Lentz?
Okay. All right, so since we've talked last, we've had a lot of events come up, so I will try to get through them fairly quickly and just give you a quick overview of how they went. Flatland Summer Jam was a huge success, and now I remember I was gonna print off a letter for you guys to read, so I'll get it to you later. But we had several letters of support written and sent not only to ourselves, but also to city officials, and that was a first for us. We're very grateful for people's active response to the new setup for the park. We were able to partner with so many community agencies. I'm going to forget several of them, but as always, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, TJR Designs, Regional Media, and ourselves were the four main sponsors who planned the event. And then we had Alpha, something Epsilon, Jeremy Robinette's a fraternity ran our bags tournament, and they are taking it over entirely next year. So it's something that they can do as a philanthropy
Fantastic.
opportunity. So we're very excited for that. The bands that we had were phenomenal, so we were happy to work with the MMS Rentals out of Champaign, and their sound and stage and production was wonderful this year. We had several wonderful sponsors: Dot Foods, MTC Communication. Kunis Country jumped on board at the very last minute, caught me at one of the business after hours and says, how do we get to sponsor Flatland? So there are definitely businesses who are engaged in it being something for the community. And then Police Explorers, Hy-Vee was a very generous donor this year in working with us for food and making sure that the alcohol sales were very safe. They had auxiliary police there, so that was fantastic. We had great staff for it. I have to give our staff a huge shout out. Security did a phenomenal job. I had a staff who is sitting here who drove from Tinley Park just to help for the event. So it's just a testament to the dedication to the staff that we've had the opportunity to work with. The partnership with the YMCA went extremely well. They're already looking at how to grow their fun run and bring it back to Flatland next year, and just a bunch of other, and Mesa, we had the big screen up for the video game tournament that was there, and I heard adults come up to me and they just loved it. Loved seeing the youth there, engaging in what was appealing to them, but still being a part of the park and a part of that festival. So we estimate that we had about 1,800 people there, which is our largest event. It's not by much, but that is our largest we've had thus far for Flatland, and we have some awesome changes coming next year that I think are just going to heighten our enrollment or attendance even more. And we've already booked our bands and set the date for next year. So we've already gained some momentum with getting the word out, and I think, again, heightening our attendance for next year. So
I'm going to stop the director right there. How many of you had a chance to go?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It was the best event I've seen the Park District put on. And the credit goes to the director and to the staff. And I want to make sure that you take that back to the staff, if you would, please.
absolutely, thank you.
Very impressed.
Thank you. Very much
I mean, the
appreciated.
whole bit. Parking, security, all the food. It was wonderful.
Good.
And that stage, my goodness,
Right?
was so impressive.
It's big.
Yeah.
That company they believe in the event, and they believe in the community, and they believe in helping small towns create big events. They give it to us for a fraction of the cost it would cost anybody else to get that
It's great.
stage. So a wonderful company out of Champaign, MMS Rentals, yeah. Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that, and I will pass that on to the staff. Okay. We also had our second movie in the park. We watched Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The number kind of escapes me at this time, but I believe we had close to 500 people there, which for our middle adultish movie, pretty good attendance. We usually fluctuate between 400 and 500, so we were pretty pleased with that number. And it was a colder night, too. It was one of those random cold nights where I'm sure not many people wanted to be out. We hosted a Big Brothers Big Sisters event at the last weekend of August. Had a wonderful turnout. Rave reviews from Pete Tarantola, the one who runs Big Brothers Big Sisters. He cannot wait for next year. He had nothing but amazing things to say about the staff that ran it, and I am proud to say I had nothing to do with that event.
Which is why it went so well, I understand.
Exactly, absolutely. The staff are very much taking over the events roles and running with it, so I was pleased to see that. We also assisted with a Blues Fest fundraiser that was hosted over at Hy-Vee, a wonderful event that went extremely well from what I saw. And Curtis, if you want to chime in as well, but a really well put together event. And we only provided picnic tables and fencing and trash cans, so easy event for us as well.
And that's, I think, what made it such a big hit is the Parks District partnership with Hy-Vee and pulling together with the fencing and the stage and the seating, which couldn't have done it without you, and turned out to be a great event.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of good compliments on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of community members turned out for it, and it was a fundraiser for our Blues Fest event that we host in May, so Linda Cox was there as well. She was thrilled. And she's the one who puts together the Blues Fest in May for us, so, yeah, it was a good time. We've had 2 afterglow parties since the last meeting. Both had decent attendance, but they are done now for the season, so if you missed the giant disco ball, you'll have to wait until next year. But Fall 4 is now operating on a different schedule. We're open Thursday through Sunday from 3 to 10. That change happened a week after school started because we just don't see the same attendance once kids have after-school programs and things like that. I mentioned several times over the summer a couple of new staff that had joined us and the amazing work they are doing. You now have in your possession a T-shirt designed and created entirely by one of those staff. This is Whitney. She is our graphic design staff. That she came to us for an internship, totally random. We've never had a graphic design intern, and just took over our designing and has done a phenomenal job. If you remember back in July, we had daily facts about park districts. All of those she hand designed. She does amazing work, and it's all just from her head. So the ZAM posters that you see, she draws those on some sort of online thing. I don't know. What do you use? Illustrator. Okay. Yeah. So it's no tracing unless she has to copy a design. She creates them all in her head. So it's absolutely phenomenal what she's done for us. And she's really made my job a lot easier because I'm not the one creating those anymore, and it's much higher quality. So the last calendars that you guys may have seen come out in the choice was entirely Whitney's design, which is why they were so much more professional than what we've had in the past. So I just wanted you guys to meet her, give you each one of her T-shirts. She's already working on another initiative for us to help push fundraising in our parks, amongst many other things. She has at least 8 different categories on the back of a poster that we've given her direction for, and she just takes it with a smile every day. So I'm so happy to have Whitney on board with us. And then Kayla, for those of you who have not been with us for some time, or new to the board, Kayla was with us last year as our program manager for the SRA, had to leave us for a short period of time for an internship. She passed, so we said great. But she had always planned to return to us after her internship, and thankfully nobody talked her out of it in Chicago, so she has returned to us in a full-time capacity and is now working on some pretty exciting ventures for the SRA, which you guys will hear about next month, as it is our quarterly meeting for the SRA.
Excellent.
So, okay. Yes.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I mentioned last time that we were doing a swag bag outreach to RPTA students. We really just attacked them. Professors, I think we attacked Phil's class, attacked John's class maybe twice, Jeremy Robinette, Jenny Hemingway. We really just showed up and said, here, take these. And it was a great opportunity for us to talk about our facilities and tell them what opportunities are happening in the Park District, and a lot of students, they don't get that information. So we thought it was a really great success. We also used those same bags at the cup party that Kayla graciously took over for me because I double booked myself. So she ran that booth for us, and a lot of community members, you said, were the ones actually grabbing the bags, not necessarily Western students. So we are getting the word out and sharing with people what we have going on in any way that we can find. Yeah.
What's in the swag bag?
So there's cinch bags with our new sketched out logo on them, and then there's a Frisbee, there was a free round of mini golf, there was a pen, a carabiner, and then there were several flyers talking about upcoming events. And a business card with our Facebook, Instagrams, Twitter, website, phone number, address, all that stuff. And a QR code on the back that lets you scan and go straight to our website.
There were some incidents reported in classes with the Frisbees. But we survived those.
I had left the room at that point,
Yes, I
so
know you had.
I'm not responsible. And then last but not least, I wanted to give you guys a heads up. I have been going to steering committee meetings for a program called CEO. It is creating entrepreneurial opportunities. It is a program geared towards high school students who might not learn in the typical classroom setting at the rate that many students are pushed to do. And it is an economic investment in the community. We are working together with 30 other local businesses at this time to raise funds and to plan and prepare and make this a possibility. But essentially what it is students choose to do this program. It meets for 90 minutes every morning, usually around 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, and they do real life experiences in relation to business. So they will have a facilitator, not a teacher, who will help guide them and lead them into what they're supposed to be learning and experiencing. But they get to, quote unquote, play in the street, if you will, and take risks and learn from their mistakes and, make independent adult-like choices. And they talk to 50 area businesses. They go on tours of area businesses. They get behind the scenes look. They get to meet the executives and professionals and start to feel invested in by our communities. And what the hope is, one, we will create a generation of independent thinkers. We will reach out to the students who might be hands-on learners or who will be go out and hands-on workers. And it also creates a sense of belonging. So often small towns like us, and this program was created for small towns like us, we see an increasing issue of students seeing the dead ends in their town and not the opportunities, so they leave. They say, there's nothing here for me, there's no opportunity, and we all know that that's wrong because, that's why we're here. So we are hoping that this is also an opportunity for them to feel invested in, to see a different side of a business, go off to college if that is their choice and get that education, and then come back home to us and help make Macomb or Bushnell or Colchester, this is a McDonough County-wide effort, make it a great place to live. So we are, again, in the beginning process, but I'm hopeful for the fall of 2019 to start this program. So I've done a couple of presentations already. I didn't want you guys to be surprised if you saw my name associated with this program. But it is something that I believe in as a young professional, and I think I would have benefited from as a high school student, so I feel very passionate about it and encouraged by it. But that is all I have at this time.
That's all.
That's all. That's just a little bit, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there questions for the director as she catches her breath?
On the last thing you just talked about?
Yes.
For those that are interested in participating in that, can you throw out a little bit of info?
Sure. So if students are interested in participating, right now we would probably be talking to sophomore students because we won't be starting until the fall of 2019. There is an application process. It is a blind application. There will be a CEO board who will go through the applications, and they will choose based on different merits that Midland Institute, who is the organization out of Effingham, they created this program, so they have all of the curriculum and standards. But they would just need to talk to their guidance counselors and say, I'm interested in this opportunity, and then the guidance counselors will get a hold of whoever happens to be on the board at that time.
Excellent.
The part I like about that, they're not targeting the straight A, they're not targeting the valedictorians, they're targeting just the free thinkers, the people
Absolutely.
in the
That's great.
program.
Yeah, and GPA is not included in it, so they're, yeah.
Do you have some type of literature or way that you're putting that out? so that
Yes,
the
I can
students
bring some to you, and I should have done that.
Don't
Mhm.
worry.
Yes, I will bring you some CEO materials.
So I guess I'm just wondering if you have any materials on site at the high school?
Currently, no, because we're still in the beginning, yeah. But once we get it all solidified for when it will begin, we'll start doing assemblies and meeting with the guidance, well, we already have met with the guidance counselors, but we'll start reaching out to students and giving them that information. Yeah, not a problem.
What's, now things are slowing down a little bit as far as outdoor activities.
Mhm.
What's coming up? Anything that we need to be aware of?
We have a movie on Friday. We have Out of the Darkness on Saturday. We have Festival of Life next Saturday, October 7th. Is that next Saturday? Two Saturdays from now. And then we have the Zombie Apocalypse Macomb at the end of October. We also have programming still happening out at Lakeview. Ceramics has just started back up again, and that might be it. So we're a lot slower than we were, but yeah, it's
really
not
slowing
entirely
down.
slow. And then for Chris and I, we're getting ready to head into budget planning season. So if you hear, hair pulling, screams, that's why.
Whimpering and all of that.
Right, yes.
Something that the director didn't mention, there are 3 photo walks scheduled out at Lakeview also. People that can come out and just basically do a quick little overview, and I don't have any idea why I'd be pushing photography.
Besides the fact that he graciously stepped up to lead it for Natalie over this fall, as she is taking care of baby.
When does that start? the photo walk?
First one is on the 22nd of this month, as in this Friday, and then the 13th of October and the 17th of November.
And what time?
5 o'clock, and then basically on the half hour, but each month, of course, it gets darker sooner, so we adjust the ending time. But if people wanted to come out anytime, I think we're going to go to 7 o'clock on Friday, because the sun sets apparently around 7:27. Yeah, sort of fall back a half an hour each time. Or people can just come out to Lakeview anytime.
Walk the labyrinth.
Yeah. Other questions?
Do you have anything to report on the Kite Festival that was taking place at the same time the Balloon Festival and the
Yeah.
Jazz Festival?
Thank you for that. Forgot about that one.
Friday, Saturday?
To my understanding, the Kite Festival went very well, and we had a comparable turnout to last year. I personally cannot say how it went because I was forbidden from the grounds by my staff. They are forcing me out of events and telling me to learn how to be a director. So good for them. I'm not bitter, but from my understanding, they did a really great job without me.
Sounds
And it's planned again for next year also.
Yep, it will be again next year as well.
I'm only laughing because I know of some of the stories, and I'm not going to go into them here, but yes, Director Lenz's staff are taking care of her
Yeah.
and trying to corral her some. And
I
I
will
think
say
with
it
one
was-
person, she may have met her match, I'm not sure.
Probably. I will say it's the first event that I have not been to in 4 years with the Park District, and most of them I created, so it was a hard to step away, but it was a good thing, so I'm excited that we have people we can trust in that role.
Any other comments or questions? I don't know about the rest of you, but I am impressed by the steady growth, both in the sort of number and variety, and in some cases, the complexity of the events that are going on. I think it's really healthy. And I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve of some of the other smaller communities. And it's not a competition, but it's not nice to know that we're not standing still. We have no committee reports, and that brings us then to item 8 and our first action, and in some ways only action item. This is an annual activity. We met, I believe it was on the 12th, with the representative from First Mid-State Investment Bankers. His card is probably on the inside. Davis with a David with a last name that begins with a P, and I can never say it quite entirely
Pistorius.
correctly. What First Mid-State does for us is to manage the sale of our annual operating fund bonds. We did at one point, as a district, try to undertake this ourselves. Chris survived the experience, but since we have been working with First Mid-State, they handle this, and then they also work with Chapman and Cutler, who are bond attorneys, and the process has gone very smoothly. What they will do, if you take a look inside, you will see some description of their services, and you will then see over onto page 2 a summary of our current debt situation, and we're not proposing to go anywhere near those limits. What we will be looking for will be and I guess I should point out to you, also on page 4, there is some information, historical information, the bond issue effect on the tax rate, and you will see that our tax rate has actually slid somewhat lower over the last several years, staying generally in at about the 69, 0.69 on the dollar. Then over into the last couple of pages, there are some summaries, because we have some, if you will look on the Macomb Park District prior bonds outstanding, looks something like this. That will be, that was our 2016 and 2017. That will be paid off fairly shortly, so that the new bond sale goes forward. Then you will also see under prior debt certificates outstanding, we have 2 issues of those in 2009 and 2015. These are paid out of our general operating funds, so these are non-referendum, and this is what is finishing Veterans Park. It is important to point out that there are people on this board who will be on the board when the first issue is repaid. And that will then raise some questions about the next step. So, can you refresh my mind, Madam Director, on what the total bond issue would be for our,
Like our maximum?
no, for what we're, yeah, for this upcoming year on the, I'm going blank on this, and my fingers are fumbling. Yeah, I have that problem. I'm trying to find out what the total amount of our bond issue would be for this year. Now, there are, yeah, very last page, there, good, okay, that would make sense. Yeah, so we are basically looking at $609,900. Now, what we do today is authorize them to proceed. So we're basically saying we're making a contract with First Mid-State, and they'll handle this. Their fees are built into this, all right? So we will receive basically 570,000 of that, and then have about 40,000 to pay interest, and then their fees being billed in there. We don't have to pay it separately. This is, I mean, basically, it's a wash, several different ways to do it. So what we're basically saying is, yes, let's do this. Now, for people who are wondering about the necessity for a public hearing on this, we have already held a public hearing in prior years in which we authorized issuing up to $2.5 million in bonds so that we didn't have to go through the public hearing annually. We will need to do a public hearing next year, in which we assume we would probably do the same 2.5 million. So was I relatively coherent in my explanation of this? And again, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is done each year. Sometimes people become a little alarmed and we think we're doing something that's going to jack up the tax rate. And no, this is all well within the PTEL requirements and the rest of it. So are there questions? What I would then need from a commissioner is a motion to approve First Mid-State as our bond underwriters, and following that, a second.
Motion approved.
It has been moved to approve. Is there a second? Second. It has been moved and approved, moved and seconded to select First Mid-State to act as our bond underwriters. This is a money matter.
Roll call. Commissioner Pettigrew.
Aye.
Commissioner Ham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bortel.
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss.
Aye.
Commissioner Hemingway.
Aye. So First Mid-State stands approved, and there is paperwork down here for us.
And Chris Frankhauser thanks you.
Yes. Yeah. Chris does not now have to do this himself. He couldn't afford to lose any more weight, I think. That brings us then to number 9. An installation of outdoor exercise area at Veterans Park. And this is a surprise that our director sprung on me, but a pleasant surprise. So I will let her take over.
So just to give you a little backstory on this new venture, since I started as the superintendent of events, it has been my dream for this park district to have this type of equipment available for our demographic. It is a outdoor fitness area that, you know, it requires no membership. It is open to all demographics. So for those who cannot afford a gym membership, now they have an option. Obviously, you know, during the winter months, that might prohibit them unless they're into cold, then go for it. But this has been a dream of mine to be able to do, and I've worked with Greenfield Outdoor Fitness, a young lady by the name of Allison Abel, who is a Monmouth native, So that was pretty fun. She lives in California now, but it was a unique surprise to be able to talk to somebody who knew what Macomb was. They worked with us and gave us a significant discount, donated one piece of equipment for free, and have made this a possibility to fit within our budget and to fit within it this year. So huge thanks to Greenfield Outdoor Fitness for making this a possibility for Macomb. So I hope the community will enjoy it. We're going to break ground on it probably on Wednesday, and hopes to have it poured by Friday. We'll give it a week to cure and install the first week of October, and it'll be ready for the community to use. This is kind of what honestly inspired the vision process, because I think John was afraid of what I would come up with without a little bit of guidance, but I had already signed off on this, so it was it was too late for him. But I have a dream of Veterans Park not just being a sports complex, but also a fitness zone for the community to be able to enjoy and utilize and benefit from. So
And Director Lentz is right. I walked in for one of my weekly meetings with her, and she sort of said, "Surprise, look what I've come up with." And we began to talk about the need for exploring this kind of project. Now, for those wondering, she has pulled off a minor budget miracle and brought this in underneath the level that actually requires board approval. Under the law, directors are allowed to make expenditures up to $25,000 without a board approval.
they lowered it by $1 for me.
I'm sure there was some trickery involved. But this is the kind of initiative that can be taken in that particular case. And obviously, we wanted to bring it in front of you just to show you what the district's trying to do.
I just wanted to make some quick comments on it, because I was reading it, and those that are out there may not
Yes.
have access to what we're reading. But these are 6 units that may serve up to 15 people at a time. And they're exercise equipment that looks like some of the units are handicap accessible. And that a station here looks like 4 people can work out at the same time, so you could have mom, dad, and the 2 kids working on what looks like pulley resistance, possibly. And one of the questions I come to, I mean, I appreciate the imagination and the working and getting this kind of equipment out there. How does that store during the winter months? Is this going to be in place,
Oh, it's just like playground equipment. It stays year-round.
and it doesn't have to be covered? Can people go out there and use it during the
Yeah.
winter cold?
Yep,
And it's durable,
Yep.
obviously. Okay.
yeah.
It looks
And I
really
think
kind of
if
a
we're-
neat,
Yeah, thank you, Russ,
For
for
bringing up the accessibility piece. And we purposely placed it right next to the playground so that parents with little kids have something else to entertain themselves with or be productive with while their kids are playing in the playground.
yeah,
I
Yep,
like that idea, because the mom can watch her children.
it's
watch
right
us.
there, because there's a lot of that.
yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
pushed
you were
back.
saying concrete was going to be poured?
Friday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday and be hopefully, well, we're gonna break ground on Wednesday, so it should be done by Friday, yeah.
Right. But it'll have to cure, and then the equipment installation begins.
So- Okay, and so the estimated time of usage for the public?
Probably around October 3rd or 4th. Jeff, our superintendent of grounds, and his team will start putting the equipment in on the 2nd, and then just depending on what kind of obstacles they have to overcome to do that, it should just be a couple of days.
This is very exciting, except
Thank
you've
you.
messed my whole future plans. This was on my list. So this is great.
Thank you.
It's definitely needed in this
Yeah.
community.
Rachel, I like what you've done here, but I would like to ask about basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that. I was betting a nickel with myself. That you would ask about
Yes,
basketball.
what
The
happened
court.
with that, the court?
That came after this was already secured, so I haven't given thought to where to put it yet, because I don't want to take away from your guys' visioning process like this. I have calmed myself down since you guys have said you want to create a vision document, so again, this one was already signed off on before John said, let's go to the board, and you need to stop, making the parks what you think is best. But I know in the master plan that was
I did
handed
not
out.
say that to you.
No, you did not say that, but you did say let the board members have some say. But in the master plan that was handed out, there are basketball courts at the Patton Park master plan. So whether or not that's how we choose to proceed, there is definitely space for courts to be placed.
I think that's the kind of thing that
But not at Veterans at the moment, or, no?
That
Or
is-
what else, yeah.
Yep, what your guys' envisionment is.
Okay. I think that's where we want to go with that, and just, to make sure we're getting everything represented.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I apologize, it was unfortunate timing on my part that I had already signed off on this before.
No, it's good you have to read
I think
So are these set up where they have tension and you can adjust the tension?
you use your own weight. And except for the handicap accessible ones, then they do have that option.
Like tension bar,
Mhm.
not bars, what do you call
You're
that?
up off the ground and you're kind of pushing against yourself. You're using
Resistance.
Mhm.
Resist-
Resistance, there you go.
Resistance,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we're starting to look like a big.
I think it's something you gotta use now.
Yeah, right.
that's what I'm hoping. I've seen many of those around the Chicagoland area and
It's definitely
always in
not for
use.
strength, really, but
So.
not a muscle building, but
Within the
just strength and
San Francisco.
exercise, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And they're huge outdoor.
14 and up is what it says for ages.
yeah.
And in multiple parks scattered through areas, so. Why don't we see, based on, I think Commissioner Ham makes a good point, that people looking at us right now, I mean, we can hold this up at the camera, but we make an effort maybe to contact the print media
Sure.
and get the information out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they'll come out the day that it's all up and take pictures and get the chamber involved for ribbon cutting, and hopefully if you guys are available, I'd love to have you all there for the ribbon cutting.
We don't have to use the equipment though, do we?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. With the models.
You guys are leaders of our park community. You must.
Big and big.
No, I didn't put it up before the commissioners and
Yeah.
I thought they should know.
But I'm assuming it'll get there quickly now?
Yes,
Nudge, nudge, hint,
yes,
hint.
yes.
All right,
Great job.
then we are at item 9, which is open commissioner presentations and discussion of any agenda items. Does anybody have anything they wish to add? As we try to get ahead of the director here? All right, then, a proposal, motion to adjourn? I see a nod.
Yep.
We'll take that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there are multiple seconds. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, we stand adjourned.